Hi, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, today we're going to make Detroit style pizza. And I'm trying something a little different. I've made Detroit style pizza before, but I've never, the dough that I had was very spongy. So I'm using the King Arthur Flours weeknight Detroit style pizza just for the dough. I made my own sauce and stuff like that. But for the dough, I really trust King Arthur flour. They really are like the experts on baking. And baking I'm good at, but it's not my main thing. I prefer to cook. But I do like to bake and I am getting more into it. So we're gonna do that recipe. And it's pretty simple. It's a time consuming recipe, but it's not hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 3 cups of bread flour. And as you may have seen in my bread video, which ironically enough, that's what you hear in the background, I'm making another loaf of that all-purpose flour white bread. Just because I ran out and it was so good, and I want to make some sandwiches while I'm snowed in. So we are under a blizzard warning this time, so that should be fun. But um, I wanted to make sure I have stuff to do some fun things while I'm snowed in, blizzard in maybe. So I got some bread flour. I actually got 2 bags of bread flour. I hate going to the grocery store during a snowstorm because my brain has just gone bonkers. And I don't know why, but I just want to get all kinds of very bizarre things that I don't know what I'm going to make together. So it'll come out, but who knows. Okay, so to that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of active rapid rise yeast. Okay, and that's the same yeast I use in the bread maker. So this time I actually use 1.5 teaspoons of yeast for the bread. So it's probably not going to rise as much as it did the last time, but that's fine. I needed the yeast. I figure, why don't I try it with a little less yeast, see how much it rises. And then, uh, what was that? Uh, a tablespoon, or I'm sorry, a teaspoon and a half of salt. And we're just going to mix those together, okay, just to combine them. Then we're going to add our wet ingredients, okay? And for our wet ingredients, we have olive oil and water, okay? So that's pretty much mixed. It doesn't look like a very different mixer, but this is actually a old KitchenAid mixer. This was the original tilt head, like the modern age. Actually, this was the modern age tilt head. Okay, so on the side you could see it says Hope KitchenAid Division, Hobart, Troy, Ohio. And if I haven't said this before, Hobart might be my favorite company in the entire world. They make the most exceptionally good cooking equipment, restaurant equipment, and it is just the gold standard 10 times over. Anything they make, their product is the gold standard of it. And that's why KitchenAid is so amazing, because it was, for a very long time, it was a division of Hobart. It just changed when it was sold to Whirlpool, which now owns it. But it is definitely the best kitchen commercial kitchen manufacturer in the world. Okay, so that was a generous tablespoon of olive oil. So how I did the generous tablespoon of olive oil was I filled it up, and I filled it so that it just overflowed, and then that's what I poured off. And I had used that because for the water measurement, it's a cup and 3 tablespoons of warm water. So that was also used. So there was water in there, so it didn't stick. So it was a very much a generous cup uh, of water. Okay, so we're gonna mix this just till it comes together, and then we're going to let it rest for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna do a couple of turns. Okay, kind of like if you've ever made croissants or uh, things like that. It's like a fold. Okay, so just so we just want this dough to come together. That's all we want. And in the recipe from King Arthur flour, they actually have you mix this by hand. I prefer to use the mixer. I think it's going to help with some of the folds, but they know what they're doing, so you can easily mix it together. The other thing that we're going to be using is our Lloyd's pan. So you may remember this pan from when we did the fried Sicilian, the Northeast PA fried Sicilian. This is what this pan is actually intended for. This is a Detroit style pan. So you really can't make this without a pan like this, or at least something that has these high sides. You need at least, these are about like a 2 inch, maybe a 3 inch uh, side on them. So you need like a high sided pan, and it needs to be rectangular to make a Detroit style pizza. Okay, so we're just about there. It's kind of incorporated. There's just a little bit at the bottom that we want to incorporate. And this recipe, I think, is going to give me the kind of the more bodied texture that I need for this cheese or for this pizza, as opposed to the other one, which kind of gave more of like a spongy technique or texture. So I've actually not been to Detroit, and I've not had Detroit style pizza in Detroit. I've had a lot of Detroit style pizza, but you always want to have the real deal to know exactly the way things are. So hopefully in the spring, I will be able to be a little bit more expert in Detroit style pizza, because it's my dream to have a um, a vintage kitchen, and the centerpiece for my vintage kitchen is going to be the uh, the Frigidaire Flare stove, which is, if anyone's ever seen the show Bewitched, it's the stove that she has. And this was a very unique design of a stove because it the ovens were at eye level. They were not below. The stove either was built into the cabinetry or it had its own cabinet, which is important because that's why I'm heading to the Detroit area, because there's a guy that is selling me a cabinet for a Frigidaire flare. I have the flare, but I need the cabinet. And the cabinet has all the storage underneath for pots and pans. And we all know that I need as much storage for pots and pans as I can get. So that's the plan. I've been talking to this guy for quite a while now about doing this, and he's been very generous in his patience with me. So when originally I was going to do it over a winter break, but because of the crazy weather we've been having on the Northeast and really kind of all over the country, it's been a very cold and very precipitous winter. Um, I'm going to wait until it's spring break, which is at the end of March. So I'll head out there, and he's in Ohio, but he's at the corner of Ohio and Michigan and Indiana. So if I'm driving all the way out there, I might as well, do a little road trip. So I'm going to do a little trip up to Detroit, check out Detroit. If I can, I'm going to hit Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness, the things I have. I have a lamp that I bought almost a year ago at this point in Western Pennsylvania. And I was originally just going to drive out and get it, but I didn't have school started and I just didn't have the time to do that trip. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get that on the way back. But I'd really like to stop in Pittsburgh on the way and check out Pittsburgh. And I mean, I've been to Pittsburgh and I love it, but just, kind of take a little trip out there. Maybe, actually, I'll probably go to Erie because Erie is right on the way, and I've never been to Erie. And it's really beautiful. It's on the lake. There's a beautiful state park there. So I'll probably stop there. And again, another person I'm in talks with. There's a guy who has a West Bend potato bakery. West Bend made a bunch of really cool little one-off, one like job appliances, and that potato bakery is only making baking potatoes. So it was a really interesting appliance, and he has one in the box in really good condition. So if he still has it, I'll stop and get that and see what else I can find out there while I'm picking up stuff. So that's spring break. I don't know why I went off on that tangent. There was a measuring tape here. This refrigerator is just not working for me. It's very hard for me to function with this refrigerator. So I found a refrigerator, not the same brand, but similar to the one that I had. And I was supposed to get that, but again, Blizzard of Palooza is coming. So that kind of put a little wrench in my plans. But we're going to, when the snow thaws or when I can get out, I'm going to get a new refrigerator for there. So there's just a lot of little projects going on that I'm working on. Okay, so the bread or the dough is here. Okay, it's ready to rest. I put a timer for 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to do 6 turns. Okay, so we're going to take the dough, fold it over itself, turn it 90 degrees, fold it, turn it 90 degrees, fold it, up to 6 times. Okay, we'll do 6 times, 6 turns, and then it'll rest another 15 minutes. We'll do another 6 turns, and then it'll rest until we're ready to prepare the pizza. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll do those 6 turns. I'm not going to come back 2 times. We'll just do it so you see what the 6 turns are, and then we'll come back after that when we're ready to make the pizza. Okay, so we'll see you in 15 minutes. Bye, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, so I figured I would just focus the camera on the bowl so that we can see this process. Okay, you can use your hand. I'm going to use my hand. Okay, so you're going to wet your hand and you're just going to fold it in, turn it, 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 fold it in, turn it. What are we up to? 5. Fold it in, turn it. We'll do one more for good luck. Okay, and then we're going to take this and we're going to put that side down. Okay. I'm going to put our plastic wrap back on there. Okay. Set our timer again. And then we're going to do this one more time. Okay. So we'll come back. We're not going to do another. I'm not going to show you the turns because you've seen that. But we'll come back when we're ready to assemble and cook the pizza. All right, Kitchen Kings and Queens, we're back. So we did the second fold after 15 minutes, and then it rested. And the resting time is between an hour to an hour and a half. I checked it at an hour, and it was not quite where I wanted it to. So you want it a little puffy. You don't want it to double in size like you normally do for doughs, but you do want it to just puff up. So that's where we're at now. So I did it for an hour and a half. Okay, it's got a nice texture there. We're going to oil the pan. This pizza is really not very hard, but it is about waiting. It's a very waiting process. So the Tom Petty's waiting is the hardest part. That's really sticking in my head right now because I am ready for this pizza, but we have to wait. So I just put a tablespoon of oil in there, and now we're going to take our dough and we're just going to coax it into the pan. Okay, get this out of the way. And depending on how the dough is behaving, this one's actually acting pretty good, but I think we might have to let it sit a little bit. Okay, you want the dough to fill the pan. Okay, to fill every inch of the pan. So if it kind of pulls back a little bit, then we may have to let it rest a little bit and then come back to it. And I think we're going to have to do that because it's pretty much working, but it is giving us a little pullback. Okay, so you want it to fill the pan in an even way, and notice I'm using like this kind of motion for the dough. So I'm kind of like kneading it and stretching it a little bit. Okay, and it's pretty much there. The only place it's not quite there is in the corner. So let's see if we can maybe pull these sides a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. That's not quite. All right. So we really want to do this right. So we'll come back in 30 minutes and see if we could do the final stretching. I'm going to put a piece of cling film over it. Oop. That's the one bad thing about this island. I mean, I don't really have a choice because it's the only size I could fit, but it does limit me sometimes. So we'll leave this here. You may notice I have it on a sheet pan. And on the sheet pan, here, I'll take it off and show you. I have a Silpat, okay, which is just a silicone pad that whenever you're baking, you can put this on there and it'll basically make it non-stick. It'll make it easy for cleanup. I'm doing that because when I made the stuffed crust pizza, my beautiful clean oven, the one we had a little burst out on the side of uh, one of the cheese stuffed crust, so it got on the bottom. So I just don't want that to happen this time. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put it on there, so if anything comes over, we'll be able to clean it up nice and easy off the pan, and it won't burn on to the oven. Okay, so we'll come back in 30 minutes. We'll stretch out those last couple corners, and then we'll let it rest a little bit more, and then it's going to go in the oven. And again, there's a lot of steps to this recipe, but none of them are hard. So we'll bake it at 500 for about 10 to 15 minutes. Because it's a convection, we'll probably only need 10. And that's just to kind of set the dough. Then we'll put the cheese on, and the Detroit style, the cheese goes underneath, and then the sauce goes in stripes on the top. So I'll talk about what I did for the sauce, because that's different from the recipe from King Arthur. I only used the dough recipe for that. So we'll talk about assembling and how to make the pizza when we get there. Okay, so we'll be back in 30 minutes. It's a little less than uh, the 30 minutes. So I'm just going to coax the uh, the the dough into those corners so I could keep this train a going. Looks like we're doing really good here. So we are almost ready. So we're going to take this. See now how it's in the, oh boy, it's in the corners now. And then we're going to let it go for another 15 minutes. And then we will be ready to bake it. So now that it's in its, final puffing stage, I'm going to turn on the oven too and make sure that's preheated. So again, we're preheating the oven to 500 degrees, and then we're going to pre-bake it for a little bit and then top it, and then we'll come back and really bake it. All right, so we'll be back in about 15-20 minutes. Kitchen Kings and Queens, we are ready to pop this in. So you want to make sure that there's some bubbles showing. As you can see here, there's some bubbles. So we're going to pop this in for 15 minutes. For me, we'll split the difference. We'll do 12 and check back. Okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens. So I just took this out, and here's what our dough looks like pre-baked. Okay, and we're gonna take some shredded brick cheese, which is the cheese that we use here, and we're gonna sprinkle that around the edge here. Okay, and this is called the cheese moat. Okay, so we're gonna put that around the edge. I ran out of the sliced one, so I'm going to just put a little bit of uh, this sliced stuff around there too. Okay, and that's going to give us a little barrier here. Okay, so this is one of the big differences with this pizza. You use a cheese called brick cheese, and in the Northeast, this is like a hard cheese to get a hold of. I was able to find it at the um, Amish warehouse store out in Lancaster when I went out there, and I was super excited to see it because I never see this anywhere. It's really a Midwestern cheese, and it's essential for this pizza. So I got a couple packs of it to make sure that I had it. But now I also kind of know that I could get it there. So that's good. The distributor of this actually is a Lancaster County company. It's called J.F. Martin. So that is who has this cheese, and that's why it was in Lancaster County. But it's made in Wisconsin, the cheese for J.F. Martin. Okay, so I'm putting a pretty substantial layer of cheese here. As you saw, the dough is very much like a focaccia type dough. Like it puffed up. It was very pan pizza-y. So I'm putting that on there. And now we're going to put the sauce. And the sauce is uh, made with the tomatoes that I made. And you kind of put these stripes of sauce across the pizza. So that's another thing that's very, I mean, we the only like real pan pizza we have in the Northeast is a Sicilian pizza. So this is our pizza's usually like a thinner crust pizza. So this is very, that's kind of the first difference about this Detroit style pizza. The second one is that it uses a different cheese, the brick cheese. And the third is that the sauce goes on top. And that's not entirely like I made before. We have that provolone pizza around here, and there's a couple different versions of upside down pizzas. But in general, the sauce goes underneath, and this sauce goes on top in these little stripes, which is it's neat. And I'm going to use all this sauce. This is just my pizza sauce that I use. I have a little bit of like a gremolata type uh, topping that I made, and I added that to the sauce to kind of give it a little bit more flavor. Generally, I like pretty tomato forward sauce, so that's what I want to kind of be the star of the show. But that's this one. I wanted it a little bit, just a little bit more flavor. I also um, added. I'm going to add a little bit of this, more of this seasoning, which is just parsley, garlic powder, onion powder, pecorino romano or locatelli, and parmesan. Okay. Oh, and some hot red pepper. Okay, so this is just going to kind of give it a little more Italian kick, I would say, at the top. So these are my variations of things. Okay, so we're gonna pop that back in, and then sorry, I had a little delivery in. That's why Roxy's freaking out. But we'll pop this in. We'll put it in for another like 10 minutes, and then we'll pull it out and see where we're at. Kitchen Kings and Queens, I just took this out. I ran this spatula around the edge. And now, this was a step that I think I missed before the last time I made this. You have to get it out of the pan immediately. And I feel like I'm a little slow to this. To make sure that it doesn't steam. Okay? So I'm going to get this spatula under here, and then I'm going to put it on this wire rack. I'm going to actually turn it this way so that it maintains its crispiness. Okay. All right. Well, that was easy. I'm going to put that in the sink. Oh, got a little structural integrity failure here. So I'm just going to kind of hold this. I guess there's a little too much sauce here and not enough cheese moat. So we'll just kind of hold that there for a minute so that it maintains its shape. All right. Well, again, unfortunately, I've never been to Detroit, but I will soon. And I hope those Detroiters that are hopefully in my fan base or will be in my fan base, I hope that I did your city proud. Please let me know if there's any suggestions or anything that I might want to look out for when I make this. It looks really good. It smells incredible, but it looks really good. I'm very excited to try this. This is going to be my dinner and probably my lunch tomorrow. So yeah, this is my version of Detroit style pizza. It seems like it's much more crisp than the last time I made it. The last time I made it was really good, but it was not really crispy. It was kind of very doughy and very fluffy, almost like it was like a wet dough. It was so fluffy. I mean, I loved every bite of it, but from what I've read, I don't think that that was exactly the texture. And the steps of that folding, I think that really helped to do it to make it better, because those steps kind of like kneaded the dough in a very gentle way, and they kind of made the dough just come together and have a little bit more body. So I think that was an essential step as opposed to what I did before. Okay, so here's my Detroit pizza. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you try it. I hope it's as good for you as it looks like it's going to be for me. And I will see you later. Bye, Kitchen Kings and Queens.